right, let's do it. Hey,
Brandon Goodman.
yo, Matt Rayla, what's good? Welcome to another episode of the Rap Thought Podcast. We just introduced ourselves, so that's who you're listening to this week. If you haven't been with us before, what we do is we take a look at an album, we listen to it for a little bit, and we go through it track by track. We break it down. We add our own commentary. We kind of see what the album's about. What are they telling us? Mm-hmm. What's good?
Not necessarily a review. We don't give it a score or anything like that, but we do give our thoughts and we give our opinions. Some things we like, some things we don't like.
Some things that we would like more of. I think we do a lot of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think it's interesting because we've done 42 episodes before this, and we've done all ranges of hip-hop artists. And some of them we were not familiar with, some of them we were. But what's really cool is we've listened to albums that we wouldn't have listened to otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I think we're still able to pull something from listening to those projects. And for today, this is one of those albums for me that I probably would have never listened to on my own. I never heard it before doing this episode.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, this week we are doing Lloyd Banks, The Hunger for More. Mm-hmm. And you were saying that you haven't heard this album.
I've never listened to a Lloyd Banks album before.
This is the first album I bought with my own money when I was a teen. So
that's crazy.
It's kind of cool. Like I remember I was in Novato. I was staying at my stepdad's girlfriend at the time, their place in Novato. We walked all the way to the Northgate Mall. I think we went to go see a movie, and then before or after that, like I went and bought the album, and I came back. Then we walked back, and one of the people I was with, she's like, "Hey, can I burn that?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Wow.
But
dude, tell me about the experience of going to a store and buying a CD.
Dude, especially because how old was I? I think it was like my freshman or maybe even eighth. No, it was I think my freshman year or so. But I mean,
high school.
Of high school, yeah. It's definitely a trip because growing up I didn't have any money at all. So like I remember my first pair of lugs, like when I dropped that $80 on a pair of shoes, and just the way that I treated them. They were white and they had suede on the sides, and like I cleaned them like once a week, and I was very meticulous about it. But when you buy an album for your first time, especially in my shoes, when you never have money, like you have to make sure this is an album that you're going to like.
Right.
Because this was like, I think I dropped like 17, 18, we'll just call it $20.
CDs were expensive back then.
They were, that's $20 right there. And that's $20 that I'll never see it for a long time. I won't see. So it was, as an experience, it was kind of cool because it's like, oh man, this is like my CD.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I collect records, because I love the feeling of going to the record store and finding a record that you really wanted and bringing it home. Like there's just a different level of connection to the music when you can do that. So I remember, middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, going to, Sam Goody's or Tower Records or Best Buy or whatever to go buy a CD, and you bring it home and you listen to it right away, and you play it over and over, and you get your full value from that CD and you add it to your collection. And it's just a different connection to the music than I think what kids get today from streaming.
Oh yeah, because it's there.
It's so disposable. It's like, this album came out, sweet, let me check it out. Oh, I like this track and this track, let me add that to the playlist, and you're done, and you move on. And next week there's 10 more albums that come out.
That's a trip to think about. It's definitely an experience that won't really happen again, because CDs they're not a big thing. DVDs aren't even really.
Right. So yeah, I did really enjoy going to the store and buying. And like you said, we're in high school, so you don't have a lot of disposable income. Mm-hmm. So when you do buy something, you cherish it, and you're like, oh shit, I got this CD.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And as I think back in high school, I don't think I bought a lot of CDs back then. A lot of mine were burned, were passed down, or like someone gave to me. I remember,
or, LimeWire.
Yeah, so like you pirate things illegally. So yeah, I definitely have messed up a couple computers from LimeWire and Kazaa.
Speaking of LimeWire and Kazaa and downloading illegally, I have a book that I read. It's an amazing book. I forget the title. I'll have to look it up. But it basically tells the story and the history of the MP3 and how MP3s were created and how in the early 2000s, all that music from CDs was being leaked onto the internet. And it was one guy that worked at a CD factory that would steal a CD from the factory from being boxed up. He would steal one, take it home and burn it and put it online. And he was responsible for Eminem albums leaking, Britney Spears, Kanye West. Like he was responsible for all the biggest CDs leaking onto the internet. And it was one dude. And they never knew. They never found out.
That's a trip.
It's such a crazy story. I hope they, make it into a movie or something because it's so fascinating that one guy is responsible for basically taking down the music industry.
That's like around the time of, I've almost said MapQuest, of like Napster and, Kazaa, LimeWire, torrents, all of that back then. But, cool.
And this album came out in 2004. So that's probably, it's just before the era of downloading MP3s.
I'd say
CDs
it's right.
are still popping. They're on the downward spiral, but that's still the main way of getting your music.
Yeah, I mean, I remember burning stuff, I think, around probably as soon as 8th grade, so 2002, 2003, I would say is the start. But, going back to that year, why this was the first album I bought, I mean, that's around the time that 50 Cent was popping. Like, I remember you go to a junior high dance, Into Club will come on.
Yeah.
People would have taken breaks to go. I mean, I remember I went to go get like a Snickers or something and get a drink. I remember hearing that song, be like, oh, that's my song. I just ran back in to go dance and everything. And you get that on repeat, 3 or 4 times in a night. But I always think of 50 Cent and G Unit as kind of like taking a play out of the playbook of Wu-Tang Clan, where it's like they have one group and then they do something big and then they start, okay, you're going to go do your thing, you're going to do your thing, and we're going to go off of the success of what the group did for us. So like 50 Cent came out with Get Rich or Die Trying, signed with Dr. Dre and Eminem and did really well.
Right.
And I remember when I first heard his album, he kept plugging G Unit and I was like, I didn't really know what that was. But then the next year they dropped Beg for Mercy, and that album was solid. At the time, like I was really big into that stuff. And from 50 Cent being big to Beg for Mercy with Young Buck and Lloyd Banks, then they branched out and did their own albums.
Right.
So that's
that is very similar to how Wu-Tang did their thing. They all branched out, and I mean, of course, I knew about G Unit and 50 Cent, but I never listened to any of their albums. Never listened to a 50 Cent album. I was at that time. What is that? That's when we were freshmen in high school. I was super into underground hip hop, and I was kind of like sticking my nose up at that music. I was like, oh, that's music for the radio. That's mainstream.
And it was. It definitely was.
But listening to it now, I'm like, this is dope. This is dope music. I mean, it may not have been for me at that time, but I can look back and recognize that it's dope music. I could see why I didn't like it at the time or wouldn't be into it.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say it's enriching. It's not content based or anything like that. It's gun raps and whatnot and gangster raps. But, I think back then for me, and this is maybe where people in the current music scene relate, where it's just, for me, it was just vibes. Like I love that hard beat, but I also like the lyrics that went along with it. People, I feel today, just want the sound of something, of someone vibing with a beat. This one was just someone like putting bars on a beat, and it didn't really matter what they were saying. Right. I had no idea what some of the stuff he was saying at the time was, but it sounded cool.
Right. It's cool. I mean, and I never knew exactly who was in G Unit. Like I would hear their names and stuff, but I really only knew of 50 Cent in the game. I didn't really know Young Buck, Antonio Yeo, and Lloyd Banks. I wasn't too familiar with them, but I would hear their names every now and then. But I just never got around to checking them out.
Lloyd Banks was always my favorite member in the group because I felt like he had the best bars.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I really liked him. I remember one of my good friends, Josh, like he really liked Young Buck. And I was like, nah, man, like Young Buck I just felt was too hard for my taste. So there was like a line of, you know, like I like 50 Cent because he's pop and like he'll sing about whatever else, but I don't take him seriously. But then Young Buck, who I'm like, I'm not taking him serious either, but he's hard though. And then Lloyd Banks was in the center of like, I'm hard, but like it sounds good, kind of a thing. I don't know.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. But I liked Lloyd Banks a lot, and I liked what he was. I liked his bars. I thought he was talented.
So yeah, with that said, you know, let's get into the album. This is The Hunger for More. Came out in 2004. Lloyd Banks' first studio album, and he was 21 when he recorded this.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. He doesn't sound 21.
And at the time when you're growing up, he doesn't look 20. Like I look at that now, I'm like, you were 21? Like that. If you told me you were 33, I believe you. But you know, that's crazy.
And so, and what's crazy when you look at the production credits on this album, it's pretty incredible.
There's a lot of people on there.
Yeah, he's got production from Eminem, High Tech, Havoc, Timbaland. You know, a lot of other people too, but it's just kind of crazy. He's got a lot of top tier production on here, and then great features. He's got Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Nate Dogg.
If you got a Nate Dogg feature, that's amazing.
Yeah, 50 Cent, and so from the start, like,
but it's especially for that time. For that time when you have Eminem, Snoop, and Eminem and 50 Cent alone, because they were all hot at that point. Like, what was it? The Eminem show dropped in 2002. And so, you know, the whole, I feel like Shady Records was just hot at that point in time because they also had Obi Trice. Not that he was like awesome, but he was popping at that point in time too. And then Nate Dogg, like you can't go wrong with Nate Dogg. He was still cool all that time too. He's still cool. He'll always be cool to me.
Yeah, no,
Rest in
Nate
power.
Dogg's amazing.
Rest in power.
Yeah.
But yeah, those features are great for that time.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a stellar, just on paper. It should be a stellar album for that time.
What's cool too is that The Hunger for More, I was reading like when the title of the album, and it's not necessarily for anything specific. It could be the hunger for more success, the hunger for more money, the hunger for more fame, the hunger for more greatness. Like there's just depending, like there's just this the hunger for more, like, and you get that throughout the album. You know, he's doing really good and he wants to keep trending upward, keep elevating, continuous growth. So I think that's a cool album title for that. Yeah,
absolutely. It definitely, you know, it you know, shows what the meaning of the album is. It tells you right away that he's young, but he's hungry in the rap game and he's looking, you know, to make a name for himself and come up in the game. And that's what he does on the first track. He definitely comes out, you know, representing himself and claiming his spot in G Unit, and you know, demanding respect.
It kind of, I don't want to say it gives you an old hip hop feel, because I feel like for me this is rap, and I feel like I don't know. I always felt that people have a different definition of rap and hip hop. To me, this is rap, but.
Ask KRS-One, he'll tell you.
I know, and I'd get schooled in that, so I'm just gonna pretend like he won't listen because maybe he won't. But like for me, it also reminds me of some hip hop feel of like when people are repping their cliques and wherever they're from and stuff like that. So it kind of like there's parts of the album, whether if it's sound or things like this, that kind of throw me back to that. But yeah, you're right. Like he's just putting his clique on the map. If you ain't repping your clique, then you can basically get out. And so
I just found the book that I was referencing. It's called How Music Got Free: The End of an Industry, the Turn of the Century, and the Patient Zero of Piracy.
That's like a long Borat title.
So if you're at all interested in how music got online for free, and it was pirated everywhere, you should definitely read this book. It's a really fascinating read, and it gives history of the MP3 and how that started as well.
Yeah, because I remember when MP3s were coming up, but I don't feel like that hype lasted very long for the MP3.
We still use MP3s today. Everything on Spotify and Apple is MP3s. They're lower quality. I think Tidal uses wave format, which is a little bit higher quality, or they use FLAC, something else that's higher fidelity. But yeah, everything's still MP3.
All right. There's kind of some elements in the first track that are repeated throughout the rest of the album. So like he mentions here to keep your circle small, don't mess with snitches, brings up snitches quite a bit. I like how he says, if you're talking about Banks, you better be talking about Tyra. And I don't know, my preference is like, you don't talk about her either. Like, man, that's like that's teenage crush right there. Tyra Banks hella fine. Don't rip on her for it. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, I like his flow for sure. It's simple rapping. You know, he's not coming out you with a bunch of metaphors and entendres like an Elzai or something. It's very simple and straightforward, but it's dope to listen to. Like, he's got a dope flow, and you're interested in what he's saying. Yeah,
I definitely think so. I like his voice. I think he has
the raspiness.
Yeah, I think it's a cool voice. I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel for other people, I could see people saying like it gets tiresome throughout a whole album. I've never felt that way, but I don't know. But yeah, and also in this lifestyle of, you know, ringing up his clique, you also got to rep yourself too, if we're going to talk about old hip hop or anything like that. So in the second track, Playboy, he's kind of touching on his come up a little bit. And I like how, you know, he's guess who is hot this winter, straight out the land of sinners. And it kind of saying that I come from a bad spot, like where there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm doing good. Like I made the best out of it and I came up. Yeah. Just kind of a rough background.
That's definitely a theme throughout the album is him recognizing where he is compared to where he was coming up in the streets and dealing with, and we'll get into it more on the last track on the album. But just from what his life was and what he's seen growing up, I think he feels very grateful and blessed to be in this position, but he doesn't say it in so many words, but he definitely thanks people. He thanks 50 Cent to be where he's at on this album.
Yeah. And he also talks about how he doesn't trust women and paranoia.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of that. And there's a lot of paranoia that comes up. So it's not just like, you know, these women are hoes or anything, but it kind of sells it as, I'm convinced that he has trust issues with people, with the way that the amount of times that he brings up and the way that he brings it up.
Right.
I like the Lorena Bobbitt reference. And so that was in 93. After years of allegedly being raped, beaten, and sodomized by her husband, Lorena cut off his penis with a knife while he was asleep in bed.
Damn, I remember that.
And so, like, I remember hearing about that in high school, but I don't remember the name. So when I looked it up, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I remember her. So I definitely remember
I also love the Dennis Rodman reference. He says, shouldn't be a problem. I ain't be a problem. See you later. I'll red your head. You'll be a Rodman.
Yeah.
Basically just saying he'll fucking shoot you in the head if you want to be a problem.
He'll just end it. I like too, he says life isn't all peaches and cream and he isn't Sara Lee. So I thought that was pretty funny. But, you know, just like he's living this Playboy life of coming up from a rough place and things are looking good and he's just having a good time killing it. But, you know, aside from being a Playboy, he's not, I mean, maybe it's just me feeling it, but he's not an idiot. Like, he's very much taking care of himself, and with that rough exterior, he's a self-proclaimed warrior. And so I don't want to say that it's this mantra or anything, but like, he'll never snitch, he'll never change because he's rich, never fold under pressure, and will sacrifice whatever it takes to keep people to take care of his own. And so I don't know. I think that's a cool definition of a warrior. I think it takes away from people, because soldier was a pretty big term around that time, like with Beyonce and Lil Wayne and 50 Cent.
Joe Budden had the internet soldiers.
Yeah. Oh, did he? Was that his? Were those his followers?
Yeah.
Stands?
Like today we have the hives. You have the beehive like for Beyonce and the Nicki hive.
Word. Yeah.
That was his hive. They're called the internet soldiers.
The internet soldiers.
Because he was like basically the first rapper to put his life online and interact with fans online.
Huh.
So he dubbed them the internet soldiers.
Oh, that's cool. But in this song he also lines up like he's cautious of who he surrounds himself with, because he knows that that inner circle will be replaced with fake people. He has a line, made it this far, can't be mad if they hit me. So it's kind of like we're content with the results of, I'm doing pretty good, I like where I'm at, and if I get hit, it is what it is.
Yeah, I really like the beat on Warrior. It definitely fits the song, and definitely a lot of, like we mentioned before, paranoia, especially with females. And the story behind it is one of the CDs, he had a threesome, and he had a CD with a bunch of songs from his album, and when he woke up in the morning, the CD was gone along with the girls. So he put two and two together and assumed that they stole the CD and leaked it.
I'm trying to remember. I think that one was for the Rotten Apple.
Oh, that was after this album?
I think so.
So you're saying he manifested that of not trusting women.
It's definitely why I wouldn't trust him, I guess, for sure. But that sucks, dude. That sucks. But so he was just like, I guess I'm never gonna have a threesome.
I mean, he says that. He says even the paranoia of a female will change you. Waking up every morning, laying next to a stranger. I'm on the move, smooth, with one eye out for the snakes. Mm-hmm. He's directly saying, I don't trust these females. I'm going to always have one eye open.
Dude, Snoop and Nate told us that back in '94, dude. We don't trust them. Oh, no, we don't love them hoes, but they also said that too. But, man, I remember for track 4 on Fire when that dropped, I think that's where I was like, oh, the album's coming.
I recognized this song.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't go anywhere without hearing this. I mean, this was everywhere.
Yeah, this was that banger at the time. I love that.
Yeah, I probably heard this at clubs and stuff, and dances, in high school dances or something. I'm sure they played this.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not until years later I'm reading the lyrics. I like the attitude that he comes out with of, nah, I ain't putting nothing out. I smoke when I wanna. And it's like. Someone trying to tell him like, yo, man, can you not? It's like, right. I'm doing this.
Crazy. This was produced by Eminem. I had no idea.
This one was produced by him?
Yep.
I saw that there were, at least 3 tracks on here that were, because I thought M had some written, what am I saying? Some had credits for writing in one of the tracks, but I didn't know he produced this one. That's dope.
Yeah. Well, production can mean a lot of things. Mm-hmm. It can mean he made the beat. It could also mean he basically directed the song and what the song should be and the sounds in it. But either way, he was part of the making of this song, which just adds to how I think people underestimate how good of a producer Eminem is.
No, Eminem's a great producer.
Yeah, but he never gets mentioned. You know what I mean? When people bring up rappers that are also producers, you rarely hear people bring up Eminem.
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, a lot going back to his whole attitude thing, just like smoking when he wants to, smacking thugs. And as you mentioned earlier, like he's only 21 and he's doing really well and everything. Yeah. I kind of going back to the attitude of women of just like, what does he say? You trying to have my daughter, but I ain't blame her for what her mama taught her. Just like
yeah, I remember that.
Coming after him for his loot, but he's not about that. And I liked he tied it up with like he's not trying to dip his baguette in her butter. And I was like, okay, I'll use that. I'll use that.
No, it's good. Does this song bring back memories for you? Like, were you playing this song a lot back in the day?
I think I was playing it quite a bit for sure. Definitely. It dances again and. just, when you're riding the bus and hearing this track, and it was cool. But yeah, man, but even aside from this song, I know you like your weed raps. I really like the next track because I feel like looking back, normally I would probably skip this kind of song.
Right.
I Get High, but I love the beat to it. I love the melody. I love a lot of it.
Yeah. I really like this song. It's got the chill vibe to it. Of course, we got 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg on it. And what's really interesting is that 50 Cent doesn't smoke weed. I don't think he ever has. But he's done several weed songs, including this one.
I didn't know he didn't smoke.
Yeah, he doesn't smoke at all. And of course, he's such a genius in terms of business that he knows that if he makes a weed song, that's a way to capture an audience. That's how to make money. That's how to get people interested. Because there's a lot of people who are really into weed, and they're going to connect with a weed song. You know what I mean? And then, of course, if you get Snoop Dogg on it, who's a huge supporter of smoking weed and has many classic weed songs, it's a very smart business move.
Oh yeah,
and 50 Cent executive produced this album, so that means he chose what tracks are on here. He chose the features. He chose the layout of the album. So 50 Cent had a big hand in this.
I hope I'm not mixing people up, but I'm pretty sure, off of what you were saying, Lloyd Banks was talking about how 50 Cent did choose the songs that went on this album.
Right.
And he's like, I don't really care, just throw them on there.
Right.
But I mean, 50, like especially at that time, like he was big. And so he knew what people wanted to hear. There's not too many singles that he dropped that weren't hot at the time. But yeah.
Yeah, dope song. I really dig it. I love his lines when he says, "Fuck rap, I'm the wrong one to get pissed off because the pump will make you jump like crisscross."
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'm not trying to jump like crisscross.
That's pretty funny.
Get my clothes crisscross. But I like, I've always imagined too, if, smoking, like, I want to raise up the lighter and fuck up the whole apartment, like he says in this track. So like, that's definitely goals right there. But, he also references like people that come up with their hands out, and he's generous with his day one. So he's, all about people that were in his inner circle, keeping them up and going. Wanted to buy his mom a mansion. Loyalty is a must. Helping cops is forbidden.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because in this track and other ones, it's not like the song doesn't always have to do with the chorus or the vibes that the song gives. So, like, I would just expect just all weed rap, just being high and doing dumb shit. But then he's talking about serious stuff like, I want to, like, maybe this is stuff like as he's smoking that he wants to do.
Probably, yeah. He's smoking, and this is what's coming to mind for him.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a cool element. I'm all right with that. So, I don't know. But I feel like, as we go along, we also get back into, he talks a lot about himself, but not. He does a good job of towing the line of being conceited, because I didn't get that vibe. Did you get that vibe?
No, I didn't get that. I think he's right where he should be as a 21-year-old with this fame and this money and this clout. He should feel like that.
But he's humble about it, though.
He is humble because he knows where he's come from, where he's been, and where he comes from.
Yeah.
So it gives him perspective. So he knows where he's at, and he knows he doesn't want to lose it. So he's humble about his position right now, and he's not going to take it for granted. But he is going to talk his shit at the same time.
Yeah, he's definitely talking his shit, but like in a mellow way of just, stating like, people don't really want to mess around with me, and like they don't want to go bar to bar with me.
Yeah. So like on the track, "I'm So Fly," that's very much of what he's doing. And this song was produced by Timbaland. And it's a dope beat. This is one of my favorite beats on the album.
There's definitely tracks like that. Like, what's the one produced by High Tech where you're just like, that's definitely a High Tech beat. And I love when producers have their own stamp, like Dr. Dre with his trumpets and his horns, things like that. And Timbaland beats are pretty out there. And Neptune's ones, his beats are pretty... them.
Yeah, and like you're saying about him being humble, he still references his mom a lot. He says, "Before I leave the crib, I tell my mother I love her. Grab the burner, but she ain't concerned because he's an earner. My bitch lays it out real nice for me to murder." So I mean, it's funny lines.
What is she laying out there?
You don't even want to know.
Oh, okay, got it.
But he's talking about, he's still living with his mom apparently, or he's taking care of his mom, but he's still, he loves her and he's still there for her, but at the same time he's still living his life basically on the edge. He grabs a burner. He could be referencing a gun that's, with the numbers burned off, or he's referencing a phone, like a burner phone for dealing drugs or whatever.
Oh, I guess you could do that. I mean, I definitely went the gun route, but
but he's saying my mom doesn't care, as because he's making money and he's able to support her. Mm-hmm. But then he references a girl, on the next one. But
yeah, definitely, like, he's not worried about if she stays or not, because head isn't hard to get. So I basically what he's saying, I thought that was funny. But I don't know, man. You kind of get as I'm like talking out loud, I'm like, man, you get kind of concerned about his women issues. He needs to settle
I hope
down.
it's gotten better for him.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because when people or rappers talk like this, it makes you wonder if they'll ever have a legitimate, like, committed relationship. Are they even capable of ever having that after, and you're getting a look into how they think about women. It's like, will that ever happen for them? Mm-hmm. After reading these lyrics, it's like, you can't imagine him, being in a marriage or something like that.
But I have to say though, like, growing up listening to this as a teen, like, I think it was just more for the beats and then what he's saying secondary, but it's more of the flow of things. But now as I'm like breaking this down, it's like, damn, he has trust issues with women. Like, that's okay. Like, I just that
when totally you're 30, you start to think about that stuff.
You're like, damn. But so he talks more paranoia with women. As you said, like, him being humble and appreciative of his background. Like, he basically says that, like, he says thanks to God for the gift of rapping, and then says that the only person that scares him is Jesus. And I really like how he talks about, like, these fake gangsters walking around with bandanas, but to him it just looks like a handkerchief. And I was like, okay, that's definitely watering down and invalidating what they're doing, which I'm all for that. It just really breaks someone down. But then also, like, how his new lifestyle, like, it brings a lot of attention. We mentioned bringing fake people into the circle, but he's talking about, like, getting stopped at the airport. And I like the kind of double of, like, why the fuck would I put bombs in my sneakers? I forget the exact line. But because this is around the time of 9/11,
right,
where terrorists and stuff bombing airplanes.
It was on lockdown,
and so I thought that was all interesting. But as we talk about, oh, never mind, my bad. But we can go back to how he's working hard for what he has, just working hard for what he's doing. He's working that work magic, track number 7, and this is just like putting people in their place if they act up, basically. So I like that's 101 dogs. I don't mean with the spots on them. I was like, oh, okay.
that was a good line. This beat wasn't my favorite. It got old for me really quick, and it got a little bit too repetitive. But I did like a lot of his lines on this one. Now I ain't from Michigan, but I'm in the Fab Five. Yayo and 50, Buck and Game. My fucking name. I like that reference to the Fab Five, and basically saying G-Unit is of that ilk. We got the starting 5 right here. No one's gonna beat us.
I don't think they ever put an album out all together.
There wasn't a G-Unit album?
They did.
Were there mixtapes?
They did beg for mercy, but Tony Yayo was in jail or prison at the time.
Gotcha.
And then I think Game had a fallout with 50 Cent while they were recording for TOS, Terminate on Sight. Which is their follow-up G-Unit album. And I think that had other people on it too, though. So
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they ever did a full album with those 5.
They're just a collective. I'd say they're more akin to TDE, where they've never really done a full album together, but they're a collective.
Well, I mean, I think that was the intent, though, was to drop
They wanted
to
put out an album.
But there were so many egos, because, I mean, like, 50 Cent and Game beefed, and then Lloyd Banks, Game beefed with Lloyd Banks, because there was rumors of him being jealous of the numbers that Lloyd Banks did.
Right.
And then Young Buck, they all eventually fell out with 50 Cent at one point in time.
Right.
Young Buck, like, publicly, like, yo, take me back, kind of thing, later on in life. But And I like going back to the song. I like you don't need gymnastics to catch a body.
Yeah, that was a dope line.
It's like, all right.
He's clever. He's got some clever lines, and I think that's dope. I wouldn't call him a top tier lyricist or anything like that, but he's got some dope lines here and there.
And I think that's why I liked him as a kid, because there's just things like that where at the time it reminds me kind of Eminem, where like he says a line and you're like, oh, the metaphor, that's actually really funny.
Yeah.
But not that I caught the catch a body like gymnastics when I was 13.
Right.
But now that I'm thinking about it, like, yeah, you would have liked that if you caught it.
Yeah, I like this one. He says, you got to blast me, yo, because Louisville will have your head looking like the top of a pistachio. The young gunner with a raspy flow. Got every boyfriend thinking their girlfriend's a nasty hoe.
Dude, looking like the top of a pistachio.
Yeah,
you know what that looks like?
Yeah, dude, I thought that was a dope line.
That's Split.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying,
Yeah.
Matt.
I'm aware he's going to hit with the Louisville bat.
Yeah, man.
Split your head open.
I'm not trying to do that. That's nuts. So, but yeah, just things like that. It was just, I like metaphors that make me laugh. So, but yeah, the transition I was trying to make was when he's talking about the fake gangsters and handkerchiefs and everything. I remember this song with like my buddy Frank, and just If You So Gangsta, just track number 8, and just, why tuck your chain in when you walk in the club, and just like If You So Gangster. So it's just calling out all these fake people.
Yeah,
I really like.
Well,
that.
because again, I think he knows where he comes from, and he knows that life, so he can instantly see or recognize when someone hasn't lived that life, but they're trying to fake it like they have. So he's walked the walk, so he can tell when people are just talk.
Yeah,
and he can spot them from a mile away. But yeah, it's a good song. I like the hook. I like his flow on this. Like, it's a dope song to just vibe to.
I like the beat. It definitely reminds me of something that could probably be released in the 90s, perhaps. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, he had some other funny lines. He says, my down bitch holds the medal. She got a Coke bottle figure and an ass that's shaped like a bowl of Jell-O. I just thought that was funny.
That's a lot of
you gotta bring in those
around.
food references.
Yeah, man. But I don't know. I like the term "getting your pockets dug." It's just, I don't know. I like that, and just questioning people that are constantly getting punked on and everything. I like it. I like that track. I think it's interesting when people do. You don't see it often when they do a remix. It's usually like on a separate disc or later on in the album.
Right.
But now
or
we
a street single or something like that.
Yeah. But now we go into Warrior Part 2, which is, Warrior was track number 3, and then 6 tracks later you have Warrior Part 2.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I'm thinking of like some old video of like where Eminem liked it and wanted to get on or something like that. But
yeah,
I just like how they're all, this track has Eminem, 50 Cent, Nate Dogg, and Lloyd.
It's a dope posse cut.
It's cool. And like they're just all talking third person of like, oh yeah, look at that person. Give him a crown, he just throws it around. He doesn't care. Like there's just no care in the world of like where they're at right now. It's just it comes off as natural like content. Like I'm naturally
I thought Eminem killed the beat and he killed his verse. I thought he did a great job on this song. It's like that classic.
And he
Eminem.
Produced this track too.
Yeah, he produced it. And Nate Dogg obviously killed the hook. It's a dope song. I enjoyed it. I like posse cuts like this. I think they're a lot of fun. Again, it's about being a warrior in the rap game and dealing with everything you have to face. Everything that comes with it, the fame, notoriety, and how you have to be a warrior to like overcome all that stuff. Lloyd Banks says, I'm doing 100 tween in the fast lane. Kick back, just relax, let me do my thing. Don't give a fuck about you suckers. Got to maintain money, power, and respect in the rap game. So he's. I'm sure Eminem and 50 are giving him game on the industry and how to navigate everything. And he's lucky to have that. He has people in his corner that have been doing it, and they can help him to sort through all the bullshit.
Yeah, man, I miss Nate Dogg. I wonder what kind of music he would be dropping if he were still alive today.
Right? Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Like, I wonder if if he would like dabble in the auto tune and kind of mumble stuff.
I think he would do features because I think he would have to stay up, with the current times. I think he would work with the more popular artists.
I don't think he would. I don't know if he would. It's an interesting question. Like, I feel like I could see. I agree. Like, I see him doing a few features, but I don't see him like totally diving into.
I wouldn't think he would
scene.
change his sound to that. But.
No, I could see him talking shit about it and thinking that it's kind of whack.
Yeah,
but I don't know. He's definitely like my favorite singer. Like definitely one of my favorite artists. Love that dude. I have all those things. I remember where I was when I found out that he died. I was in Santa Cruz, and I just picked up Music and Me. And I remember hearing the rumors that like they may drop a posthumous album for him. And so like ever since then, I've been kind of keeping tabs for it, but
still not here.
Still haven't heard
we
it.
We get a Nate Dogg feature here and there.
We do. We got one on Anderson .Paak, which is cool. But I would love like a posthumous album. Yeah. I remember when I have to say this real quick. Like, there's an album, his self-titled album, which is Orange. And I remember looking for it for years and years and years, and I finally was able to download it a couple of years back. But I was happy about that.
Nice.
Yeah. Good album. Good album.
So next, we move on to Karma. And this is definitely getting deeper into his paranoia with women.
How did you... I don't know. I listened to it a few times. I don't even remember seeing the word karma in this track. And so I was
the karma's on it, but the hook is all about karma. Mm-hmm. It's all about, you had me and I went after you and you denied me. And now at this point you want me back and it's not going to happen. That's karma.
All right. So I was kind of like, I was also being distracted at the time. Like we were talking about like the election and like going through the ballots and stuff. So I was like half reading and half listening. but what I got from it though was like in the first verse, he's laying game on this chick, but she's not interested. Mm-hmm. And then the second track, it's the way he's been treated by females that he isn't interested, but like he's not interested in them, but then they're trying to hit on him. But then the third verse was like they have something going on, but then there's a friend that's like causing a bunch of drama for them. Right. And so for the karma that comes into that, it's just for him being paranoid about women and relationships not working out. It's like there's always something. There's always something going on. Mm-hmm. So if that is the case, I thought those three different perspectives were kind of interesting. Because especially at 21, you know, thinking of high school, like you like someone, you date for a while, someone gets jealous of whatever, and it causes a bunch of issues. So I was like, okay, like he can't win.
Yeah, he's talking about his experiences with women, and he's probably referencing before he got put on and before he gained a little bit of fame of trying to get at women, and they denied him. And now he's saying, now you want to be with me, but I'm not interested in you anymore. I moved on from that, and that's karma. He says, you had me feeling like a fool when I hollered, trying to squeeze in, but you wouldn't bothered. Now I ain't neither. As soon as I realized that I ain't need her, she ain't a rush to get close to me, but I ain't eager. Just pointing out that you didn't capitalize when you could have. Like I was hollering at you and you didn't accept it. So it's your loss.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And we were talking about this a couple pods ago. This transition of going from like upbeat, and we're kind of going downhill a little bit. So with track 11, when the chips are down, you kind of like in the track we were just talking about, he's talking about problems with actual relationships. And then this one kind of, to me, alludes to what was happening when the chips were down, when he was down on his luck, when he was poor, when things weren't really good. Right. And I don't know if this is with a brother or someone close. I can see it either way, but like having to share an outfit that you really like. Because I remember growing up, like you go clothes shopping, it's like, all right, you can pick out one outfit that you'll really like and you can roll with that. At least that's how it was with me. I never really had anything that was pretty awesome. But I mean, I could definitely see with a friend of like, hey, let me borrow that as I go out here and stuff like that. Let me borrow this belt, let me borrow this sweatshirt. So...
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the game's feature. He was talking about where he was at before he got signed to Dr. Dre, He said 2001, I was playing on my PlayStation, heard 9 shots, I'm face down with my heart pacing. All I could think about was hiding my gun and my drugs in the basement. It was either that or the state pen. I woke up out the coma, police waiting for a statement. And he's really good at being very descriptive of situations and putting you in that place.
What's cool is the story sticks too, because if you ever listen to his album that came out, a year or two later, the documentary, like, woke up from that coma 2001, the same time Dre dropped 2001. Like, he doesn't repeat all the stuff bar for bar, but the story's the exact same.
Right.
You got shot. And
yeah, it was dope. I mean, you say this a lot. You like when people stay on point for what the title of the song is, and, they don't go off topic. Especially that happens a lot with features. Sometimes, they just rap about something completely different than what the other rapper did, and you're like, what's going on here?
I like that there's a meme where it was like talking about Pusha T, where like they were all, I forget who he featured on, but they were all talking about something, and then it's like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about Drake. And it's like, it's
or
like,
he's gonna talk about coke and
it's like that's not what we're talking about, dude. So I thought that shit's funny.
Yeah, no, and I really like this beat. I really like the hook. I thought this was a really dope song. I really enjoyed it.
This one was actually, as I'm listening to it in my 30s now, Karma, When the Chips Are Down, and a couple of the last ones, Die One Day, those are all kind of foreign to me because I kind of skipped over those ones.
Right.
They were kind of slower and I didn't really care for them. I was like, nah, I want to get hyped up and whatever. So, but listening to it now, I appreciate it, but it's still, I wouldn't skip it now.
And then next, move on to Till the End, which is also produced by Eminem. I really like this beat as well. And this is basically him giving his oath to G Unit and dedicating himself to his crew, and a lot of it's directed at 50 Cent, saying he'll never betray them and he'll die for them, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty interesting looking back on it and then knowing what happened afterwards.
Till the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure I didn't skip it. But yeah, Till the End, like, it's definitely this kind of, with the piano and kind of the slower pace, like it's definitely like this, not sad, but okay, like he's gonna talk about something here as well. And so, like, sharing his love for his group and everything. But he also talks a little bit more about paranoia. He talks about the uncertainty of people, dying. Like, in the first verse, just basically saying that, when you wake up, you don't know that you're going to die that day. And, the paranoia behind that is like, is it like a homie plotting on you that sees your success and likes it? Is it a girl that you just slept with that, isn't just going to take your CD this time, but is going to end you and stuff? So, but it goes into a lot of paranoia, and I don't know, just like how he finds solace in smoking weed and how it calms him down. And I thought it was just kind of definitely one of the deeper tracks on this album, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he goes into a lot of personal stuff. I mean, the thing with Lloyd Banks, though, he doesn't get very detailed. It's very surface level. He lets you know what he's dealing with, but he doesn't go into anything really more than that. He doesn't dig deep. But he says, he mentions meaningful stuff. Like when he says, keep my mind on my money and my head to the sky. I never really smile much. If you was here, you'd know why. There's frustration and fire if you look in my eye. The media fucking me up, right hooking my high. And so, he doesn't go into a lot of detail why he has frustration and fire in his eye. But it's there. And it's deep rooted in him.
I think, too, like I'm mentioning the media, I don't know if it's because enough people have talked about it that you don't, this like, okay, like the media kind of jarring him back and forth and wanting certain things. That's kind of what I got out of that lyric. But yeah, I don't know. You're right though. Like there's a lot there, a lot of surface stuff, a lot of very upfront, but I don't know.
I think he doesn't make that type of music, or just G Unit in general. I don't think made that type of music where they're gonna go deep and they're going to psychoanalyze themselves.
No, the
about
deepest
things.
the deepest that they go is on women, of just like making them feel special and stuff like that, which is interesting in regards to the type of music that they're portrayed as making in these gangster raps and stuff. Of like, all we do is kill people all day, and then like, you know, we love our bitch, and then
Right.
we go back to killing people. So, Die One Day.
Die One Day. I really enjoyed this beat. And this one, again, like I mentioned this before, he's talking a little bit directly at 50 Cent and just kind of appreciating him and for helping him put him where he's at. So that's a little bit more of that humbleness that we talked about earlier. And he says, live my life principle driven, never bite the hand that feeds you, never mind all the haters, fuck them all, let them die slow. All I need is my N-words, money, liquor, and hydro. I know. So he's saying, you know, when he says never bite the hand that feeds it, he knows he's saying I can't betray 50 Cent or Eminem or any of the Dr. Dre or anyone that's like helped me put me in this position.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna read the chorus real quick. Everybody gonna die one day, whether it's natural causes or gunplay. But fucking with me, you slide down a one way. I keep it gangster from Monday to Sunday. And I feel like it kind of goes into that mindset of, you know, I don't know the exact details of how he grew up, but, you know, I've mentioned before Coach Carter and things like that, where a lot of these kids grow up thinking that they won't make it past a certain age. So it's kind of like,
Right.
live now and see what's going on, you know, whatever. And, you know, in this line, he says, a year ago, I made a decision before I shut my eyelids. Pray to God I get shot tomorrow because I don't like surprises. And it's funny, we were hanging out with our neighbors the other day, and he was talking about this experiment of marbles and stuff. And so you can have, you know, a set of marbles where you'll know what you're going to get, where you're going to get a mixed thing, one where the probability you don't really know what you're going to get out of it, but basically saying as you know, making decisions for what you choose of like, hey, would you rather pull and know that you're going to get a white one, or get pull from one and maybe get a white one, maybe get a black one, whatever. And people are always going to go with what they're comfortable with. But on the flip side of like bad decisions, people would rather go with with a bad decision than an uncertain decision.
Right.
And there's more comfort in that. I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Of like, I'd rather go to a restaurant and know that this shit sucks than try something new where I don't know anything at all. At least I know what I'm going to get. And I relate that to this because I think of like, you know, I know what's going to happen day to day. And so I
Right.
just bring me death. I don't want to bring surprise. I don't want to deal with surprises. So I just think it's a really interesting mindset to have. What would you do, Matt? Would you rather go with what you know you're going to get, or would you dabble in mystery?
I like trying new things. So when you bring up the restaurant thing, I'm always down to try a new restaurant. And even if I don't like it, I like the experience of just trying something new. So but that's not the same with everything. I think it depends on what it is, what the situation is.
Yeah, I think it depends too. What's one where it wouldn't depend? Where you're like, nah, I'm going with this shit.
It's a good question.
Like maybe if I told you,
Sometimes I do that with at night when I'm going to watch a show. I'd rather watch The Office, which I've seen, 100 times, as opposed to trying a new show. I'm like, I don't want to bother. I just want to watch what I know I'm going to enjoy before I go to bed. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel that. I feel like when it comes to a new show, I'm picking one that I already know. Like at night, if I know I don't have the brain power to stay awake, I don't want to try something new.
Right.
But if I have the energy for it, I'll just try something new.
Yeah.
So, all depends. But yeah, that Die One Day. That's kind of a roundabout bunch of stuff of like what we got out of that. And then we end with Southside Story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So there's 2 verses. Each verse talks about a different story that he's witnessed. I'm assuming they're true based on how he talks about them and how that's led to him behaving like he does in terms of paranoia and just knowing the life that he's seen and he operates.
The first one's interesting because, I mean, I couldn't imagine. He's talking about basically being 10 and talking with someone and they end up getting shot. I think they got shot 3 times and they collapsed and died. And he's in the moment of like, holy shit, like this person is done. Like they're bleeding out. And then you get this feel of as he's rapping it, because he says, I don't remember the exact line, but he then almost comes to his senses like, holy shit, like what if they're coming after me next? Like there was only 3 shots. There's still 6 more, however many more in the chamber.
Right.
And so he starts running. And so, he goes back home and tells his, I don't remember if it was his uncle or if it was a stepdad of like what happened and stuff. But he said it fucked him up at a young age.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That would fuck anyone up.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that. Seeing someone pass away naturally is already pretty shitty.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And then the second story talks about how I think it was at like the basketball courts or something, and then this guy walked up to a girl and they had a confrontation, and he threw a purse at her, and then she got pissed off and she left, and the guy stayed there. And Lloyd Banks references he didn't have a gun on him or anything. He just stayed there. And the girl went to go get a guy. And this guy came back with a bat and hit the guy in the back of the head. And basically just beat him till the guy passed out on the court. And then stole his chain. And it's like, that's such a ruthless thing to see. I'm assuming he's young when he saw this. Mm-hmm. And that's a crazy thing for you to witness. And then that goes into your mind of, okay, this is how the world works.
It's pretty nuts to think about. And like, I can't really make a judgment because I'm not going to, I don't know. I feel like it's not fair. But I mean, we've even had that close to here where like in Santa Rosa, there's a Denny's and then there's a bar right across from that where you've heard of people like there's a fight or whatever, people leave, but then they come back with guns and like, all right, nah, I'm ending this right now. And I'm just trying to think like of under what circumstances I would have to be under to like leave and then come back to like take care of business. And so I feel like a lot of it has to deal with like ego and like, no, you're not going to punk me in front of all these people and get away with it. I'm going to show you what's up.
Well, it's even more interesting that it was a girl and she left and got a guy to take care of the business. So the guy doesn't even really know what happened. He just knows what she told him. So that guy is just operating under like, okay, this guy assaulted my girl or my sister or whoever, however he's related to her. He's like, I got to take care of this guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy thing to witness and to be around. I'm sure that affected how he viewed things and how he operated and how you can learn not to trust people through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely. I mean, he references it in another track where it's like you definitely have to watch what you say around people because it could definitely come back to get you. So I think it's interesting. I've just never been under that circumstance where I'm like, yeah, man, I really got to show Matt what's up. Like he can't do that to me. So and a bunch of like 50 other people that I'll probably never ever see again.
Right.
But Matt needs to know what's up. So it's interesting.
Wow. So yeah, that's the end of the album. Lloyd Banks, The Hunger for More. It was a dope album. I don't know if I would ever, seek to listen to this whole album again, where I'm like, okay, let me put this whole album on and listen to it. I think I got everything I could get from it or need to get from listening to this.
It's kind of like a movie where it's like, all right, like I'll watch this, The Big Lebowski. I'll watch this again a couple months from now. But I'm not like queuing it up every night as I go to sleep or anything like that. Yeah.
No, this is more like a action movie that you really only need to see once. Like you're not getting any in-depth, scenarios or things to take from it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is a cool action movie. I enjoyed it. I was entertained for an hour and a half. But I'm good. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah. It's nostalgic for me because it's one of the of that era, one of the
Right.
albums that I listen to a lot. So, but I mean, I agree with you though. Like it's one of those for me where, I'll listen to it as it comes up, but I'm probably seeking it out maybe once or so a year. I have to admit, like The Hunger for More too. The tracks on that bang a little bit more for me. So if I'm looking in a banger setting of tracks and I'm not looking to Lloyd Banks for content. I'm looking for it for like a certain type of banger with good flows to it and everything. And that could be anytime, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Do you think this album sounds okay today, or do you think it's dated at all?
It depends on who you direct that towards. Like, because I grew up listening to it, like I like it, but I don't see I can't see my siblings listening to it, or
Right.
I don't see it trending, but I like it though.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a tweet from him a couple years ago. Like someone asked him, like, "Hey, Banks, where you at?" And he's just like, "No one wants to hear Lloyd Banks." And so it was kind of sad, but
Wait, he said that?
he said no one wants to hear a Lloyd Banks album right now.
Oh.
And so, it's, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he because 50 Cent isn't as big as he was.
He doesn't really make music anymore.
And he doesn't do that. But I mean, ever since with Kanye, like he kind of fizzled out.
Do you think there is a shelf life to their type of music that they're making?
Oh man, that's a hard question.
Because they were part of the new era of hip hop, right? It was this gangster hip hop.
This like pop gangster.
As compared to let's take a who's like another artist from like an earlier period that's still going strong, like a Black Thought. Making music with the roots from the 90s to now, and with the roots and by himself, he's still relevant and people still want to listen to his music, even though he started earlier. He's been around forever. He's from a different era, but he still today can put out dope music, and it makes sense. It fits. Whereas Lloyd Banks is thinking, if I make the same type of music I was making, people don't want to hear that. It's dated. Whereas Black Thought was able to kind of reinvent himself or change with the times or just improve his game and bring something new to the table.
I don't think he brings anything in what you're saying like unique enough to make him stand out. I think there is I don't know, because I'm trying to think of like, what got him really big was the 50 Cent wave and G Unit. And then he fell off for a second to go do his own thing. But, after, I have to say, like, if I were to ask my teen self, what's your last memory of him? It was like, I remember like the Rotten Apple dropped and then I didn't hear of anything else after that. And I remember Beamer, Benz, or Bentley coming back, hitting the waves. But like after that, it went away again. And so, especially for me, like listening to mainstream stuff at that time and not really hearing of him, like I'm going to forget about him. Oh wait, and now Lil Wayne and T-Pain are hot. So I'm on to the next thing now. So I moved on. If Lloyd Banks drops another album, I'll listen to it, but I'm not like, I don't see it trending again like he was back in the early 2000s. Right. So I think that's what's up there, is like he was a product of that time. And I don't know if he gained the support and the fans to carry him if he were to make a return like Black Thought did, if he were to make a return like Tribe did, or De La Soul, or any of those people. I don't think he has that type of following to make a huge comeback.
Yeah, I'm sure he has a decent enough following to where he could put out an album and it'll do decent.
Yeah, but I think so. I just don't think it'll hit radio waves like really big.
Right, which is what he's accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I definitely, for me, the type of music that Gina does just isn't for me. It doesn't hold my interest. And that's not that I don't think it's good music. It's fun to listen to, but it just doesn't hold my interest to want to revisit it and be like.
It's kind of like a time and place. And actually, another artist that I think about, with all that said, was Fabulous, because he was hot at one point in time, but he's still very much active, but you don't really hear about him as much. He drops mixtapes all the time.
But he's got his core following that's all he needs.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Lloyd Banks has a core following to keep him moving, but I'm not going to hear him in the radio or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. And for this album, it's a cool album. I could understand why it did so well back when it came out. And obviously he's got the features and the production. He's got the backing from 50 Cent and from Eminem. With that, you should do well on paper. But yeah, Lloyd Banks he's a cool rapper. I think he's interesting. I think he's got a cool flow. I just think he doesn't go deep enough for me. I think if he went deeper and you knew more about him and his life and his background, it'd be more interesting to me. He just doesn't give me. It's too surface level for me.
Yeah. You have a hunger for more stuff from him.
Exactly. Give me. I'm still hungry, Lloyd Banks.
Damn. So, but yeah, I think that's about it for this week's ep.
Yeah, that's our rap thoughts.
That's a wrap.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are on Google, Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you guys are listening from. We appreciate it. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube as well. You can check out some videos, video clips from the episodes on there, so you can see us in the flesh. You can also hit us up on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all at Rap Thought Podcast. Definitely hit us up anytime. You can definitely recommend an album you want us to put on the list. The albums are chosen at random, so an album may not come up for a while if you want it, but stick around and it may. But yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in, and we got a cool guest lined up for in a couple weeks, so we're excited about that. We're not going to give it away just now, but we got a cool guest coming up. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's always really nice to have, because Matt's dumb sometimes, so like to be able to talk to someone else, it'll be really cool.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to the Travis Scott episode, that one features Brandon's brother, your boy Nilo, so go check that out. It's really dope to get his insight and how Travis Scott's influenced his music that he's put out. So definitely go listen to that.
Do it. All right, you guys. Well, this actually dropped after the election, so hopefully it goes well and don't protest or riot too hard and stay safe out there. So.
Yes, sir.